What is happening? Very tempting. Good evening to you, and welcome to the Echo Wise Parenting Show here on Life 97.5 FM. This is your boy Arnold Gozzi Gosling, and we are here with the EKCO Nation squad, including Shernell. Good evening, Shernell.
Good evening, Godly. Good evening, life listeners.
Blessings. And we have some very special guests. And before we introduce our guests, we just want to let you know that this is all brought to you in partnership with the Massey Foundation. We want to say thank you to the Massey Foundation for supporting this initiative. And if you want to be on board with supporting this initiative as well, as we change the culture, change the future, make sure to WhatsApp us at 254-3526 or email us at ekconation@gmail.com. And today we are talking about digital readiness. It is something that we discussed last week. We dropped a little drop in the bucket, and when we said parenting in a digital age is all about prioritizing digital readiness above digital happiness. And we have two very special guests in the studio with us. Chanel, let us know who our guests are.
This evening we have
Us, Mr. and Mrs. Murrell. Good evening and welcome to you.
Good evening.
Okay, so let me tell you a little bit about our guests. We have Janelle. Welcome, Janelle, again. And Janelle is a qualified and trained assessor and interventionist with a love for helping children to read and achieve their full potential. Her journey began over 14 years ago when, as a stay-at-home mom, she offered free tuition from her living room. This has resulted in today what is known as LITE preschool and pre and primary school, right? Yes. And with her is her husband, Mr. Billboard. You all might know him. Billboard is a producer and musician with a passion for all arts, as well as encouraging and helping children to blossom. With his knack for administration, he's able to manage the hardworking and dedicated team, in the day-to-day operations of LITE. As I said to you, LITE is a preschool and primary school, and it stands for Learn, Imagine, Try, and Enjoy. I love that. Okay, Mr. Ghazi, so you were talking about prioritizing digital readiness over digital happiness, yes?
Yes, that's what we are talking about. And why this is so important is really what we want to highlight. I know as parents, and you guys are parents, can you just let us know the age ranges of your children?
Okay, so we have 4 children ranging from the youngest one is 10 years old, about to be 11, and the oldest one is 23 years old.
Okay. All right, so you guys obviously had children in the digital age, growing up in different times. I want us to, was there a lot of pressure as parents, and do you see it as teachers and principals, where there's this pressure for children to have access to devices at very young ages?
When you say pressure by whom or what kind of pressure?
We call it peer pressure, societal pressure. I mean, when they see other children, or is it pressure from the parent standpoint? Some people mention to us that parents get devices for children because they wanted their children to have certain devices.
I want to say there's pressure. The reason why I want to say there's pressure is because I believe that 99.89% of children have devices. So they need to pressure. Who don't have a phone, have a tablet. Who don't have a tablet,
with even your 23-year-old, you saw that right from your parenting.
No. We didn't pair with that.
Right.
We didn't pair with that. I was speaking generally in relation to what I'm seeing children with. So my 10-year-old, he's been asking for a phone for about 3 years now. I told him, yeah. I told him, you live with me. You go to school with me.
No need for phone.
You go to church with me. You don't need to call me for anything. So you don't need a phone. So you can check me on phone when you get to secondary school. So no, he's about to do 11 plus, so the pressure is on, right? Destiny did not have a phone
until
secondary school.
And that phone is within boundaries.
And right now she only gets it on weekends. Asher, interestingly enough, he was always the most disciplined one, and he probably won always making money, so he bought his own phone. But so he had a phone problem, but that was when he was 13.
And if I could say, the use of that phone was for videos.
Yeah.
Not necessary. So he wasn't using his phone necessarily.
For social media,
No. Gaming, no.
No, gaming. And then our fourth,
Fair.
F about every 12 months of the year, she was banned from her phone for 11 and a half.
Yes.
Wow.
So she had a phone, but she could might as well not have a phone.
Yes.
So
She owned the phone, let's put it that way.
So I mean, I want to ask this, since you have those philosophies, why did you guys make that stance that, hey, we were not going to get our children devices? I know you said that, well, they're always in constant contact with you,
right?
but was there any other reasons why you said, like, hey, it's best for us to wait on making this decision before you actually give them access?
On yeah, well, we they're different ranges.
Right.
So we have two older kids and two
adults.
two practically adults
Yeah.
and two younger ones now. I think that there was probably a greater influence with the last two because everything is technology. No. But as far as I'm concerned, you don't need like devices are, I think, should be based on practicality, right? Is there a need for a 5-year-old to have a cell phone? Why? That don't make any sense. I mean, like, to me, it does not make sense. Why does a 5-year-old need a cell phone? And if you can't use your phone at school, and you should be having phones at school, then you can use it at home. But if you're home, you don't need it. If you're by your grandmother, use your grandmother's phone to call. If you're by your aunt, use your aunt's phone to call. If you're going
I was gonna.
I will let Shernell interject. You go ahead, Shernell.
No, I want to make a point about that because we're in schools, as you know, and children say to me, but phones are not for calls. So while we as the older generation see a phone for making calls, to them, I tell them, you know, a phone is for a call, right? They look at me like I'm speaking a foreign language. So phones to your 10-year-old is not to make a phone call. To your 14-year-old is not to make a phone call. So it's not about the call. So what do you tell them then? Because to them it's not for a call.
Right. So what I would say before I give way to Janelle is that no, if a phone, if it's about gaming, you have a game. I'll buy you a game, right? And even that will have parameters. In primary school, again, a 5 and a 6 and a 7-year-old does not need a laptop at all for any reason. You may need one in secondary school, but you don't need your own in primary school. So, really and truly, the phone is just about social media and being able to access YouTube and TikTok and all of those things, right?
What about tablet?
A tablet, I guess, the devices are basically so that you can access social media, so the children can access social media, and it is really a distractor, right? You just do things to keep them occupied. I think there are a lot of other ways to keep children occupied rather than sticking them in front YouTube and TikTok. Half of the things that not even half, the majority of the things that they watch, nothing educational, absolutely nothing beneficial. If you look and see what these children just watch people doing a bunch of nonsense that they think is funny.
Let me jump in here and say that there are, in terms of our experience, there are children who actually have what we would call educational or intentional educational times on their devices, where we know there are children who are involved in art, they use it for art, they use it for building and being creative in terms of certain things, and there are some platforms that allow them to be creative. Some use it to learn a new language. So, but I do agree with you those children are not as regularly seen or known. And it comes with a lot of intentionality, a lot from the parents. Now, I want to go to Janelle, but before I go there, let me just quickly mention, because we said what we were talking about today, but we didn't necessarily give an understanding of what it is. What is digital readiness? And digital readiness, according to what we have here, is to have sufficient knowledge and understanding on how to use technology and the internet wisely, responsibly, and positively to learn, create, and participate in an online world. All right, so it's about having that knowledge and understanding of wise usage, positive usage, and responsible usage, and especially for learning creativity and how to communicate in an online community. Now, I want to talk, and I want to hit straight off the bat to you. I want to ask you the tough question, Janelle. We heard Billboard mention this before. Is a phone the best device for a child? And we are talking about let's start with under the age of 7. We're looking at 6 and under. 6 and under. I think 6 is a
the early childhood age.
In the early childhood age, is a phone or even a tablet the best device for a child to have at this stage of their early childhood development?
Okay, so maybe I should answer it like this. So a knife is something that is very good. We can use a knife to help us get our meat to be smaller. We can use a knife to cut Play-Doh. But there are some people that may use knives to commit a murder, to do all of that. So in my opinion, young children having devices, it is not something that is totally bad now, because I am a teacher in the classroom. A lot of the times I can bring that multisensory experience by using something that is educational on the phone, on the device, whatever. So having a device, but knowing specifically what the child is using it for, I would advocate for that, and not a device to babysit. Because if children under 7 years old, if you give them a device, and imagine that a child has this device in their hand when they get home from school,
in the
car, they're going to keep quiet. But what about interaction? What about speech? What about finding out how your child's day was at school? What about building vocabulary? A lot of that is diminished, and the research shows us that as well. Also, if you look at what is going on in the brain, there is a contrast between a child that has a measured amount of screen time, and they're outside on their bike, riding, interacting with children, playing up in mud and discovering, ooh, this feels wet. Ooh, this is muddy. Ooh, this left a stain. There's a difference between the development, brain development, socialization, speech and language development for that child versus the brain of that child that is spending 6 hours, 5 hours. And one thing that I have noticed, sometimes parents don't even recognize the amount of time that the little ones are actually in front of the screen, because a lot of the time, once the children keep quiet,
that's good enough.
It is good enough,
that's what we
and
want.
Parents are quiet because the children are quiet, but not really understanding what is going on behind and the impact that it is really happening.
All right, so you're talking about what it would call, we heard the term coined last week, digital pacifiers.
Yeah, boy.
I think that was what was coined last week.
Yeah.
But you did touch on a couple of things that I really want us to, if we could just take the next 2 minutes to look at. There are a lot of things, especially in the early childhood development. There are a lot of skills, and there are a lot of things that relate to their brain development that is so necessary, and their social skills as well, that is so necessary in early childhood. And I want you to speak to the whole idea of Is this causing a challenge in terms of teaching in primary schools and how you now have to approach the classroom? Let's say you have a child who don't normally go outside. They're constantly on their device. We heard stories of children not having developed motor skills by certain ages because of the amount of time they're interacting on the screens. We heard of children that don't have proper social skills because sometimes the videos that they are watching, they're interacting with non-human characters, and then sometimes those characters are totally out of sync to the culture or even the community that they may be growing up in. And then the whole idea of attention spans and the need to constantly have activity in order to drive some level of engagement or learning. Are these challenges that we are seeing in the early childhood development age that you're seeing, especially if you've done investigations and you've seen that these are children that are tied to the device, or where the device is not in proximity to the child, there are mood swings or mood regulations with the devices and so on? Are these things that you are seeing?
Okay, so we see a range of things at school, and I think that they became very obvious, Mr. Billboard, to us, because we would have discussed it coming out of COVID, where we would have found that ordinarily we would have had kids that would have wanted to go outside and play, or just be socializing in terms of, hi, talking. But one of the first noticeable things that we saw was that there was a drop in socialization. Even if a child was next to another child, the tendency was to message on the device.
In primary school?
I'm not going to answer that question. What age group are you talking about?
Right, so we are talking about primary school kids.
Oh, wow. You're kidding me.
No? Right? So this is not only secondary school, because we deal with primary age kids, and of course you could appreciate that that is a foundation that is being built. So anything that is being seen at secondary school, it did not start when the children got there. Anything that you're seeing in juniors, that did not start when they became a junior. So we're talking about the layers of the foundation and the layers of life. So socialization was impacted. You can ask almost any teacher. Sometimes it is a great fight to maintain the attention of students, because...
And this is the contrast to with before COVID. In other words, the engagement in class was different pre-COVID compared to post-COVID.
Well, I would say that pre-COVID there was access to devices, but it was not as free. It wasn't as rampant. It would almost seem like there's a thirst and a appetite to have a device, to sit in front of it, to be on TikTok, and I'm talking about small ones. And what I would say, sometimes we get to understand what is being viewed when you hear little five-year-olds talking about, this person is my crush, or you would hear certain accents, or you would hear certain language that we know, all right, this is not something that is cultivated at school, and we know your parents, so we know that this is not even something that your parent would permit or allow. So then when we make our investigations, or when we bring it to the attention of a parent, you realize then the content has even altered the way that they think, even altered the way that they play, even alter things that they would think is funny, like death. Like death seems not to be a shocker anymore, because everybody has, a lot of the students and primary age kids have access to this person or this accident, and everything is giggle. So even that social and emotional aspect, that has been altered, because things that we would grow up and recognize, this is not funny. When you see something on internet and somebody has their head smashed, that's not funny. That is somebody's mother, somebody's father. It is not a joke. Or when you watch these videos of people getting into accidents, somebody ran into this, and then you have a culture of children that are desensitized now to, you know what, that was not funny, that was not the thing to laugh
empathy
at.
is something that's missing.
Yeah.
Before you continue, Gazi, because you said something very important about what you know these parents, and it's not something that they allow. And I want to say to parents, you have allowed it. It was not intentional.
Well, okay.
But you have still allowed it. And this is what we want parents to be aware of. That you are allowing certain behaviors. You're allowing your children to become the things that you do not want by not being intentional. And that's what we have to start being. Intentional parenting. Because if you give them a tablet, you give them access to these things without monitoring, without putting parameters in place of what they can view or what they can't view, how much time they spend on it, you have created the child that you have today. No one else. You have done that.
All right, so some very important thoughts. We're going to take a short break, and then when we come back, we're going to try to wrap up on this talk. I don't know if we could do just one. I think this has really been important. So hold on a minute. We'll be right back here on Life 97.5 FM with our EKCO Parenting Radio Show. With our guests, our very special guests, Billboard and Janelle Murrell of LITE Barbados, and they run their own basically educational center, I call it that.
And
more than just
learning
a school.
center.
It's more than just a school. It's a learning center
As well.
And so I really value the conversations, both as parents and as teachers and principals that you shared so far. We talked a lot about the early childhood aspect of it. We want to go now to more touching on the teens. And before we get there, I really want to share something that from EKCO Nation, how we approach digital readiness and what we try to tell our parents to have. And we look at the fact that as parents, we are there to protect, we are there to nurture, and there to empower our children. And when we look at parenting, that is how we have to approach it. How are we protecting our children? We are nurturing their development and empowering them to add value to society, to add value to community. And I think that same approach must be taken when we look at giving our children access to the digital world. How are we protecting them from the dangers in the digital world? How are we nurturing them to be good digital citizens in that world? And how are we empowering them in terms of not only their safety and their development, and to using it responsibly to add value? So I want to just quickly mention some of the things that as parents, I think we should take a look at. How is my child's digital readiness impacted by, are they being trained? Are they being educated about their safety and privacy online? Are they being educated about how it's going to impact? Are you considering how is it impacting their mental and physical health? How is it impacting their development, especially in terms of their brain? We understand that the brain fully develops at age 20, 21, anywhere between 21 to 25. So even in the teenage years, that brain development is still necessary. As parents, we still need to parent in those teenage years. How are we going to, do we have a strategy for helping them in terms of their critical thinking skills to know what is real, what is not real, what is true, misinformation, disinformation, all these things? What about digital literacy? We know that the digital world is here to stay. So are we training them and giving them the skills and the tools to help them use the digital world to their development, to their advantage, to their benefit? Or is it just an entertainment device that they don't know, they're not in control of what they're doing? How is it going to impact their reputation and character? Understanding this, that what they do in the digital world impact their real world, your relationships. We talk about that, the social skills, but also how it impacts parents, because a lot of the times children are cooped up in their bedrooms on their devices for the whole day, and the only time parents actually see them is when they come out to get something from the fridge or get something to eat, and they go back inside. All right. What about their academics and careers? All these things are things that as parents we need to consider, their future and their destiny. Where we need to consider these things where we're talking about, is my child ready for the digital world? Because you are there to protect them, you are there to nurture them, and you are there to empower them. Now, we only have about 4 more minutes left, but I want to ask this question. In terms of teenagers now, is it okay if as parents we can say to a teenager, I'm not giving you access to a digital device or social media until you are showing signs of digital responsibility or even responsibility at home? Why are we giving teenagers, for instance, a device when they aren't taking care of responsibilities at home? They aren't performing well in school or being disciplined in school, discipline at home. Why do we think that they would all of a sudden have this discipline with the devices, or they're entitled to it? I don't know. You tell me.
Well, I don't think the average parent is really concerned about policing the device and if the children are responsible or not, because devices are cheap.
What you call cheap? $1,000?
The average child don't have $1,000 phone.
Okay.
Right? So
They have the $1,000 game.
they may have $1,000 game, but the average child don't have $1,000 phone. But the whole digital readiness is a separate conversation, I believe, because you need to be able to understand those terms. But in terms of just being disciplined as a teenager, and there are a lot of things that our kids don't know. Now, let me give a good example. And well, he's not a teenager, but let me use Eden. When he started first play this game. Now, I remembered one time we went away for a week, right? And when he got back and I checked his device usage when he was by my mother, we went away for 7 days. He had 168 hours in a week. You can calculate that as like a job. Right? And then like while he was playing games and what's not, he had things on headphones. So we've taken a stance, like, first of all, your screen got to be a direction that we can see and stuff like that. There, headphones, we won't hear what was being said,
As well as no device as well.
Yes, sometimes there's no device, right? So parents generally, to wrap up, parents generally have to monitor, right? It is really up to children. Up to parents. The children have to, what is that you saying, right? If you take away, if it's a problem, just take away the device. You'll have none.
Okay, so we definitely have to go. I don't know, Charnel, will we be able to continue?
I think so. I think we need to continue this conversation.
All right, so tune in next week as we talk about digital readiness part 2. Thank you for joining with us here at EKCO Nation on Life 97.5 FM. Up next, the Starcom Network News.